Water. What do we really know about it? Science tells us that it came to Earth from meteorites, making it an alien substance, and we're only just beginning to touch the surface of what it is capable of. My name is Veda Austin. I'm a water researcher from New Zealand, specializing in crystallography. Over the last 8 years, I've been studying water in its state of formation, the phase between liquid and ice, and have discovered something extraordinary. Water appears to intelligently respond to human consciousness. By using its building blocks of ice to design recognizable images, water can share its message or acknowledgement back to us in picture form. Have you noticed a little sailboat is appearing in the ice? Its influence was the thought of a sailboat. My first experience of this phenomenon was when I projected a thought of my hand into a petri dish of water, froze it, pulled it out, and in the architecture of the ice was a hand. I froze some seawater and an image of a fish appeared. I now have over 10,000 macroscopic photos of water responding this way. Here are a few examples that show both the influence on the right and the ice response on the left. I use many different influences, from photos, words, music, media, and thought. I've even spoken to water and got a written response. The photos you're seeing now were all taken on my iPhone. They were designed by water and crystallized in ice, not photoshopped, not altered. So what does this mean? Could the ancients and indigenous people be right? Could water really be a living entity?
So essentially, everything is dependent on the cell being charged, including, as you said, if there's the reason a liver has the form that it does is because the liver cells have a charge, and when two negatively charged liver cells come together, they keep their distance appropriate for a liver cell, which is different than an eye cell or a foot cell. And that's how the form of the liver is created. If you lose the charge, it's like a dead battery. And so then there's no charge on the outside, and the cells clump together. They become too dense because there's no negative repulsion to keep them apart, and that's what we call a tumor. So fundamental to understanding the whole cancer process is, why does a cell lose its charge?
The health of a biological cell is largely related to the level of structuring within the water. A healthy cell is comprised of 90% water. A dying cell has less water with a weak field, and a healthy cell has a strong field. This is primarily due to the level of organization of the molecules in the water within the cells. The GDV is a device used to measure the biofield. Water molecules, organic nutrient-rich particles, inorganic compounds and free radicals, aligned organized water molecules. As the water enters the device, it begins to impart motion and resonance to the water, both upstream and downstream of the device. This is where the water begins to organize and align within itself. Once the water is organized, we call it structured water. As the water becomes more organized, it begins to align elements and affect their structure. The water then separates itself into two functions, that which more efficiently delivers nutrients and carries unwanted elements away more effectively. As the water passes through the spheres, the water becomes structured. The double helix motion duplicates natural water flow in streams. It is the key component in the organization process which alters the water's properties. When water is structured, a type of biomagnetism occurs, which amplifies the field around each cluster and within the whole connected water body. When water or other fluids are passed through our generators, such as wine or juices, they smooth and soothe the taste and texture of the fluid. The water also has more available oxygen, increased hydration, and supports enhanced nutrient absorption. It also assists in helping remove unwanted compounds, radicals, and other elements, all while delivering increased bioenergetic properties.
Water is the rebel element. It defies the laws of physics and gravity, and you can't kill it. Without it, there is no life, and it came from outer space. It reincarnates for all to see, and by molecular count, we're 99% of it. Rebellious, eternal, and alien. Just look at the power we're filled with. My name is Veda Austin. I'm a water researcher from New Zealand, specializing in crystallography. I'm about to share some of my work with you that has never been seen before, beginning with the kind of water we use every day when we turn on a tap. Here we see the crystallography of municipal tap water. I'd like you to notice how disordered the ice looks. It's interesting to see a visual representation of the kind of water many people are drinking. Here we see the crystallography of water that has gone through a lot of plumbing and processing. It contains fluoride and heavy metals. Notice how cloudy it is. Now let's compare that to spring water collected directly from source. Notice the clarity and formation of star hexagons, as I like to call them. They indicate structural integrity. Here's another example of spring water showing the same beautiful geometric patterns. Seeing these photos of spring water and tap water is like looking at order versus chaos. Next we have the liquid crystal architecture of water taken from a little stream that ran through a forest here in New Zealand. Notice the ferns and the star hexagons, typical of unprocessed water. It seems that the water has created a piece of ice art. I'll add that although the structures are very nice, you can't be sure if the water is safe to drink unless you get an analysis done from a laboratory. This video is from water I collected from a puddle of rain. New science tells us that when we drink water, our body converts it into H3O2, which means it has an extra hydrogen and oxygen atom. It's also known as fourth phase water because it's more of a gel. It fuels our cells and acts as a negatively charged battery that is essentially run on light. Dr. Gerald Pollack talks about this in depth if you feel inspired to watch his TED Talk. Saliva is a good example of a viscous bodily fluid that's 99% water. It behaves very differently to the kind of water we're familiar with. This is a video I took of melting saliva. When you spit, you'll notice it's mainly bubbles. See how the bubbles hold their shape even when they move around the dish. Saliva has been used for many years as a way to test for fertility. If a woman is ovulating, the saliva will show ferning like you see in this picture. This is a great example of the hidden structural information in water. Blood is 90% water, and it all looks very similar in test tubes, just as water looks very similar in bottles. But we know that blood samples can vary greatly, and my research suggests that it's no different with water. As we progress on, let's look at what a microwave does to water. The water post-electromagnetic radiation looks almost brain dead. Imagine what it's doing to your cup of tea. Here we see the crystallography of water that has had little to no human intervention. As soon as water starts going through piping, its structural integrity is compromised. This slide shows the crystallography of tap water and water with various levels of EMF exposure. The first 4G sample originally had the structure of spring water. This is how it looked after sitting next to a cell tower for 15 minutes. The same test was done for the second 4G image, except it was sitting there for half an hour. By volume, we're approximately 70% water, and by molecular count, we're 99% of it. It makes me wonder how our world of technology might be affecting us. I think getting out in nature is very healing for the body, which leads me to some studies I've done on the impact healing energy has on the structures of tap water. I asked 60 people from around the world to send love to the water sample on the left. The result can be seen on the right. Here, Reiki energy was given to the sample on the left. The result is on the right. And lastly, a prayer was said to the water sample on the left. The result is on the right. Just as we can heal with kindness and appreciation, so can water. So now that you've become familiar with various water structures and have been introduced to the idea that water can be influenced, you can appreciate just how extraordinary these upcoming images really are. But first, let's watch a video of water responding to the thought of a sailboat. For this next video, I used tap water with very poor structural integrity, as you can see. But even so, you may notice that a leaf shape is forming amidst the rest of the chaotic ice in response to the influence of autumn leaves. It appears that water can use its building blocks of ice to create imagery as a response to human consciousness. These next photos show the influence on the right and the response on the left. What we're seeing is water defying its natural formations to create something extraordinary. Sometimes fact is stranger than fiction, and when it comes to water, it seems that there is no end to what it can teach us. Perhaps the ancients and the indigenous people were right all along. Perhaps water really is a living entity.
Like, well, wait a second. If you add that to the, water having a base charge and is naturally electrical and carries voltage, they were all encircled with water, which somehow passed voltage. Combine that with Dr. Cowan's theory or pointing out of structured water. Yeah. And now I feel like I have 6/10 of the way there to be like, well, wait a second. I think we can probably do that.
Negative charge of the Earth makes just a slight attraction. It's very weak force and it attracts things down. So down is down for me here. Down is down for Australia over here. Down is not up for Australia. Down is down because the Earth sets that negative charge. Now, the then buoyancy and density sort everything else out. If I had a basketball and a rock and I held them in the air over a swimming pool and I dropped them, they'd both fall through the air because they have an attraction to go down, but they're denser than the air. The basketball would sit on top of the water and the rock would go to the bottom of the water. So how do we prove this? How do we test this? Well, we can take
But the reason that would happen was density.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Electricity.
Here's a Van der Graaf generator, and we're gonna take this metal plate and we're gonna apply a negative charge to it, slightly stronger than the Earth's negative charge. And when we do, little wood chips go up. Right? Not just metal, wood. We do it with metal. We do it with, what do we do next here? Here's iron, right? When this charge is stronger than the Earth's charge, things go up, right? So it's not defying gravity. It's just overpowering the negative charge of the Earth.
This shit is what led me to looking into this shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, G, frequency, vibration, and
the question is, can we reconnect them? Can we reconnect these waterways and canals and star forts that have been disconnected? I mean, they basically terraformed. They basically have gone in and with the HARP and climate change, their climate control bullshit, they've gone in and terraformed this place over the last 200 years, at least.
That's what I said. I always thought Genesis was terraforming. Creation in the Bible is actually found in John 1:1-5.
That's insane.
Wait, what happened?
I love it.
They form waves. It's a vibration so minute that it waves. See that?
What were you using? Or whoever made
moving, it's forming glass into a wave. Holy shit, huh?
Got the whole
without
door
breaking.
waving.
So we know that that's possible. So it controls matter.
I mean, come on. The sun is a big fucking stirring spoon. I mean, you
Yep.
have this thing that's create an entropy generator, basically, that's heating something as it stirs. It's like heating the spoon up and stirring something. The winds and everything are created like that because
Yep,
of the
that's what
differences in the
look,
temperature.
Yeah, right here when they max it out, right?
Yeah, and that creates waves. I mean,
Yeah, it creates wind, the polar cap, the what do you call it? Everything.
Yeah, all
Right
the
there,
patternization
right there,
and the
because of
water
that path,
and the ice crystals.
and that's what it follows. That makes so much more sense than anything I learned in science.
Yeah, and
Right
see
there.
the sun and remember the sun's so easy to block out because the sun isn't a physical object. The sun is the result of Polaris. Polaris is the source of the sun. So the sun is a ray. Read Psalms 19.
Like in the Antarctica, when you can see it on the close to the dome, it gets into 3 suns and it's reflected 3 times instead of the middle one.
Hey, it's Adrian and welcome to another episode. In this one, I want to turn our attention to the subjects of sound, frequency, vibration, resonance, and word magic, because they're all connected. We live in a universe which is vibrating and spiraling and twirling, actually, or whirling, if you will. But it's all the vibrations around us. Everything has a frequency attached to it. And we have vibrational sensors for touch, for sight, for sound. You're decoding vibrational frequencies, and that's what gives you the impression of reality. Now, it's really important to understand that frequencies can be very beneficial. They can also be very harmful. Electromagnetic frequencies being one that can be particularly harmful, but there are frequencies in there that can be beneficial. The same with sound. You can use sound to shatter glass. And in fact, Royal Raymond Rife, if you haven't studied him, he's an interesting one to go look at. He actually worked out the frequencies for all different illnesses and how to effectively shatter them. Much like you would shatter a glass with sound frequency. And of course, we don't hear anything about him because that would negate the entire need for the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry, pretty much. So back to the subject of frequency, you can tell when your frequency is changing, your vibration, if you will, using your emotions. When you start to feel bad, that means you're focusing on something, thinking of something, paying attention to something, speaking about something, a subject which really isn't doing you any favors. And I pay attention a lot to that, and I find any other subject I can that feels better, that makes me feel better than I feel now, and I chase that rather than chasing it down. I chase it up. And it's really, really simple to do, and I'd encourage you to look into doing that. So we step back now to sound. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about cymatics. If you've not looked at cymatics, it's a very interesting thing. Simple description is a metal plate with a speaker attached to it, or a way of generating frequency. Sand on the top, you play frequency to it, and the sand gets into different geometric shapes. Now I'll play a quick video clip now, not all of it, just some of it, to give you an idea. And the higher the frequencies go, the more complex the shapes are. So, if you will, our entire universe is sung into being with sound. Obviously that's just a clip, but how interesting is that? And at the end there'll be a clip you can have a look at which shows music and how it affects everything around it. It's really interesting. So we are responding, our universe is responding to vibrational frequency. That's how that works. So with that being the case, it's very possible that the very words we use, the sounds that we make, start to do things and they influence reality. Well, this is where it starts to get really interesting and it gets a little darker. I'm going to recommend you have a look at some of the work of Pao Chang if you haven't already done so. And he's done some amazing work with regard to magic, magic words, if you will. Now, for a long time, particularly with all this virus stuff we've been looking at, I've been saying to people, it's like people are walking around under a spell. You know, they're enchanted, they're in some kind of trance. And I really felt that. I also felt like there was a kind of dark energy descending around us, which may sound really strange to some. It was just the senses and the feelings I was having. When I read this book the other day, it was recommended to me by a friend. Absolutely amazing. Now, if you think it sounds like nonsense, let me just stop you and ask you just to go on a little journey with me. When you are at school and you are very young, one of the first things they do is they teach you how to group sounds together, letters together, to make words, and they're teaching you to spell, which is a magical term. And when you get really good at it, you get good at spelling. And then you can start to dive deeper into the book. Now, what you can do, in the description there'll be a link to his videos. You can watch the videos, and I'll also put a link to his book if you want to buy it. It's an Amazon link, and I will make a few pennies if you buy that way. You don't have to. It won't cost you any more if you do. It's a worthwhile read. It's only short. It's 130 something pages, but it's absolutely amazing. So if we start to look at a couple of words, like we talked recently about the television and how you are programmed. Well, if you think about what they do is they broadcast a signal to you. Well, witches cast spells, don't they? Magicians cast spells. Now, if you think about how language can be used in the business of bringing someone into the world, a live baby into the world, you are born, or you're inside the mothership, if you will, in an amniotic sac, so you're inside water. You would come down the birth canal, which is a nautical term, into the delivery room, or when I deliver something, I give it to someone else. You are handed to a doctor, which is a dock, that's a nautical term, that the stuff that comes off the ship goes onto the dock. And then you are placed into a ward. Well, when you look at the term of a ward, it's part of a prison. A maternity ward is part of a prison because your parents gave you away to the state. And pair rent, by the way, means the two of them rent, so they rent you back, if you will. There's all sorts in the book. It's absolutely amazing when you start to look at it and you start to understand how language affects reality and how we are being kept spellbound by it. And I really can't recommend it highly enough if you're interested in that kind of thing, which I am. A couple of other things for you. When you go into a public building, you go through the entrance. That's an interesting word. When you say good morning, that means that you're paying your respects to the dead. There's all sorts of things which are being used subliminally, effectively, to have an enormous impact on our world and how we perceive our world and how we experience our world.
The film you are about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, it is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter. everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound.
Just gotta chill the fuck out.